Hi, I'm Rhonda, and I'm a semi-retired baker, caterer, and cake decorator. And one of the things that I love to do is I love to save money. I love to get a good deal on something. I love to go to stores that have closeouts and just find a good deal. First, I want to say that I don't think that Thrifty and Frugal is the same as just being cheap. Like somebody who just only always buys the cheapest thing. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about getting good deals on good products where you're not compromising the quality of what you're cooking. So I'm not saying go to the store and buy every generic product you can possibly find to save money. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about well, there's a long list of things I'm going to talk about that help me save money that I think might be helpful for you too. So let's get started. First of all, I would say that I am well aware that there are a lot of things that you don't skimp on, and things that there are sometimes when you have to pay more to get something better. A good example, this is not grocery, but my Dyson sweeper. I've had it for years. I think back when I bought it, I paid $400 for it, which I think you can get them for less than that now, but I've had it for several years. And it was well worth the money because I've gone through several sweepers over the years and, maybe pay $150 or something for a sweeper and have it last a year or two and just not do that great of a job. So the Dyson was well worth it. And there are things that I also don't skimp on, like I only use real butter. I don't ever use margarine. I don't like it in any way. There's just, to me, there's no substitution for butter. And I feel the same way about like lemon juice. Real lemon juice tastes way better than any lemon juice you're going to buy out of a bottle. So those are two things that I never skimp on. So I am well aware that sometimes you have to pay more, but not always, and you can definitely find some good deals, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Okay, so there are grocery stores like Walmart, Target, they have groceries. Both of those places have pretty good prices on their groceries. And then there are grocery stores that are, maybe a chain where you live, or, in lots of parts of the country, there's Publix, there's Smith's, there's, I can't remember from when I used to live out west, but here where I live, there's a store called Martin's, and they're all around the Michiana area where I live, which is Michigan and Indiana, near the state line. And I love to shop at Martin's. They have fantastic selection, but their prices on just regular things, when they're not on sale, their prices are high. So I don't tend to shop there a lot, except for the good deals that they have, which are when you get a flyer in the mail, a lot of the things that they advertise they're called loss leaders, and they're things, maybe they're by the front door when you walk in, they're the first thing you passed by, and they're good deals. They're like a bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's barbecue sauce for 99 cents, or really good deals that are well worth taking advantage of. And so I go there from time to time to take advantage of those sorts of deals. And also sometimes they have meat on sale. Sometimes they have good deals on meat. And when I go there, I want to take advantage of that. So if you just kind of plan ahead and plan your shopping around these deals that they have, you could really save a lot of money. Like, as an example, say you had in mind that you wanted to make some Swiss steak, cube steak, something like that for dinner, and you were going to go to the store and you're going to buy that. But when you get to the store, they have chuck roast on sale for $4 a pound. Do you really have to have Swiss steak that night, or could you make a pot roast instead with a chuck roast? That's up to you. If you're willing to pay the extra money, then go for it. But me, if I was unaware that this sale was going on and I walked into a store and they had chuck roast for $4 a pound, but I had been thinking I was going to make Swiss steak for supper, I would just change my mind and I would make chuck roast for dinner instead, because $4 a pound versus probably $7.99, $8 a pound, I would go for the chuck roast every time. So, but if you plan ahead, you're not going to be caught off guard by anything. You're going to go there specifically for the good deals. And like I said, look near the front door, look at the flyer, and try to stay away from the things that aren't on the flyer because their everyday prices just aren't as good as some of the other places, which we will talk about. Okay, so one place I like to go, or I should say two places, is Sam's and Costco. Because buying in bulk can definitely save you a lot of money. So not everything at Costco and Sam's is a good deal, and sometimes you have to buy really huge quantities. So not everybody can buy, a gallon of mayonnaise at a time and actually go through it. But here's a good example of how buying in bulk really saves you money over time. I bake a lot, and one of the things I use when I bake a lot is pecans. And usually when I make a recipe, I don't use a ton of pecans each time. I use a couple handfuls maybe. So yes, I could go to the store each time I'm going to bake something and I could just buy a small package of pecans. And if you do that, they are about $1 an ounce. If you buy like a 4-ounce package, it's about $4. And that would be enough to get me through baking a batch of brownies or something else that has pecans in it. So that might not sound like a lot of money, but if you go to Sam's, you can buy a 2-pound bag of pecans for $10. So that makes the pecans 30 cents a pound. So that's more than half as much as buying the smaller packages. So I know I'm going to use it. It's not going to go bad as long as I keep the nuts refrigerated or frozen. They're not going to go bad. So I always buy the bigger package because it saves me money over time. Now I will say that at Costco, things that aren't a good deal, I don't think their soda is a good deal. A lot of the paper products, toilet paper and paper towels, you think that they might be a good deal because it's such a big package. But if you were to break it down, what you're paying per roll, it's really not as good as you think, and you're better off going to somewhere like maybe your grocery store that doesn't normally have good prices, but they have the loss leaders. Maybe one week they have toilet paper on sale for an amazing price, and then that's the time to buy it. But Sam's and Costco, buying in bulk can really save if you're buying the right things. So while we're talking about Sam's and Costco, the other thing I want to talk about that I think saves me money is the rotisserie chickens at both of those places. Those are the only two places that I will buy a rotisserie chicken from because they're $5. They're almost twice as big as one that you'll get from Kroger or Walmart or Target. And they're just such a good deal. Now, I will tell you my best tip is when you go to buy one, don't just grab the first one that you see. What I like to do is they usually have them, all in a row or 2 rows even. I like to bend over, look across the top of the row and find one that's touching the top lid because that one's plump and fat and bigger than some of the others. You would be surprised at how much bigger one might be than another. It may weigh a pound more than the chicken sitting next to it. So I always look for the biggest chicken, and then I bring it home, and while it's still warm, because it's way easier to pull the meat off the bone when it's still warm, I pull the meat off the bone, I chop it up, I put it in a Ziploc bag, and I throw it in my freezer, and I use it for all kinds of things. I make tacos, I make burritos, I throw it into soup. Sometimes I make chicken teriyaki when I just want something really quick. I just take some broccoli, some chicken, throw it over some rice with some teriyaki sauce, and have teriyaki chicken real quick. So you can use it for a lot of things. And when you freeze it, this is something else I want to talk about. And I'm going to show you an example in just a minute. But when you put the meat in the bag, flatten the bag as much as you possibly can, because thawing anything that is in a big wad, ball, or hunk doesn't thaw nicely and it takes forever. But if you lay out the bag of chicken in a Ziploc bag, spread it completely out in the bag as much as you can, then when it comes time that you want to use some of it, you don't want to use the entire bag of it, you can just break off a chunk of it here or there. And actually, if you freeze it just right, after it freezes, you can kind of just bang the package on your counter and it kind of busts up into multiple pieces, and then it's just easy to grab however much you need. And then you always have rotisserie chicken on hand. I mean, it's hard to not be able to whip something up pretty quick when you have things ready to go in your freezer. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Okay, so another thing I'd like to talk about is buying things seasonally when they're cheap, and you get such a good deal on them. Two examples would be, this is pumpkin, because at Thanksgiving time you can buy pumpkin really cheap. And then I will make pumpkin roll, maybe pumpkin bread, pumpkin pie. So anyway, I had some leftover pumpkin and I packaged it into a Ziploc bag, flat, so when I'm ready to use it, it'll thaw real quick. And I packaged it so that it's the exact right amount for what I make these pumpkin rolls. And this is the exact amount I need. So when I'm ready for it, it's all ready to go. Now here's another thing. This is zucchini. And I'm not a big fan of zucchini, but I do like to make a chocolate zucchini bread, which to me, you can't even taste the zucchini in that. And at some point, I'll probably do a video for the recipe for that. It's really good. It tastes basically like a brownie. But anyway, in the summer, zucchini, I mean, heck, if you have friends who garden, sometimes people just give me zucchinis. But if not, they go on sale really cheap in the summertime when they're plentiful. So when I buy them, usually because I want to make some zucchini bread, I'll buy an extra, or if somebody has given them to me and I have extra, I don't want to waste them. So I shred it up and then I put it in a Ziploc bag and freeze it flat. And now this is the exact right amount. When I want to make some zucchini bread, it's all ready to go. It'll thaw fast because I froze it flat. It's the right amount that I need, and it's already shredded. So I can whip up a batch of chocolate zucchini bread in no time flat with that. But also, as far as freezing things flat, even meat, even hamburger. Okay, so then in regards to meat, it's the same thing. You want to freeze the meat as flat as you can get it so that it thaws quickly. Now, what I do when I buy hamburgers that I'm going to make burgers out of, I go ahead and make them into patties, and then I freeze them one at a time like this, flat. I think I put, I don't know, 4 or 5 ounces, 4 ounces probably, for a burger. And when you freeze these flat like this, you would be amazed at how quick this thaws. And I could take this out right now, and in an hour, my husband and I could be eating burgers. And that's without me having to put it in the microwave to defrost it or anything. That's how quick this will start to thaw and be ready to cook, because of freezing it flat like this. So that's how I do burgers. And when I buy stew meat, that's another thing that I'll buy in bulk, either at Sam's or Costco, or like I mentioned, you know, our local grocery store, they have good sales on meat. If they have stew meat on sale, I'll buy a big package of it. I'll divide it into Ziploc bags like this, you know, put like a pound in each one, and then I flatten it out as much as I possibly can, and I freeze it like that in a square block. And then when I'm ready to cook it, you know, I can take it out in the morning, and in 3 hours, it can be ready to cook. So you just save yourself a lot of waiting and thinking that it's going to take forever to thaw. As long as you freeze everything flat like that, you're going to learn that things thaw pretty quick, and just how quickly you can have things ready. Okay, so another thing that I'll buy in bulk, and that I prep ahead, that saves me money, is hamburger. And most of the things that I make with hamburger, and I'm not talking about burgers, I'm talking about in a dish, it's all tomato based. You know, it's lasagna, it's chili, it's spaghetti, sloppy joes. Most of the things I make are tomato based. So what I'll do is I'll buy 4 or 5 pounds of hamburger, because it's cheaper. Either get it at Sam's or Costco, or my local grocery store. When they're having a sale, I'll get it there. And I take my Instant Pot and I brown all the meat up, and then I drain the fat off. And I'm going to give you a quick tip for draining the fat off meat, which, you know, maybe a plumber would disagree with me, but here's how I do it. I have this big strainer here, and it goes over my sink. And so what I do is I cook the whole batch of hamburger, and I get real hot water running in my sink, and I squirt a bunch of dishwashing soap into the sink, because that's going to be fatty grease that's coming off the meat. And so I have the hot water running, I pour the meat into my strainer, and in all honesty, I actually rinse the meat. I run some water over the meat to get as much fat out of it as I can. And all that greasy liquid goes down into my sink, into my soapy sink. And then the hot water, my hope is that I am washing that grease down the sink with the soapy water and not causing some kind of a fat buildup or something in there. And I run it for a few minutes afterwards. So that's how I deal with, you know, I'm probably going to get lots of comments on this. That's the way I do it. So anyway, after I have rinsed the fat out of my hamburger, I put the hamburger right back into my Instant Pot, and then I pour just enough tomato juice in there to cover it. The tomato juice is not meant to be any kind of a sauce, flavor. All it is simply a liquid to cook the meat in. Because I have this thing about hamburger. I don't like hamburger where you just brown it, throw it into a jar of sauce, and then put it on top of pasta and eat it. That is not a good textured meat to me. I like my hamburger to taste like it's been slow cooked, like good homemade spaghetti sauce or good homemade chili, where the meat has cooked for a while and it's tender. That's how I like my hamburger to be all the time. So I want it that way every time. So anyway, you put the tomato juice in with the hamburger, put it on to pressure cook for half an hour, and when it comes out, it's like it's been slow cooked. And so then anything I put it in, you know, it has more of a slow cooked taste. And by the time it's done, there's hardly any tomato juice left in there anyways. And if you were opposed to the tomato juice, you could try to drain it off. But the way I do it, I just barely cover it. And this is some that I have right here that I froze. I don't know if you can see. It's pretty much all meat and has very little amount of tomato juice in there, but what I'm making is going to be tomato based anyway. I'm going to put tomato sauce or spaghetti sauce or whatever I'm going to make, I'm going to add the sauce to. So the tomato juice isn't going to hurt anything. But what I do is I freeze the meat in mason jars, because I have a million of them, and they're glass, and you can microwave them. So anyway, this probably seems like a really small amount because this is a jelly jar, but the meat's already cooked down. So you would be surprised to find that a jelly jar full of cooked down meat is actually the perfect amount for a small pot of chili for 2 people, like 1 can of chili beans. When I make chili, I think I use, if I'm just making it for myself and my husband, it's 1 can of meat, 1 can of chili beans, 1 can of tomato juice, and then all the spices that I put in there. It is the exact right amount for 2 people to have 2 good sized servings. So when I freeze the meat, I freeze some of it in jelly jars, and I freeze some of it in the next size up, which is a pint jar, which I would use if I was making a bigger batch of something. But there is one important thing you have to always remember if you're using jelly jars or mason jars, and you can save jars that you buy jelly in, or you buy any glass jars, you can reuse them. But any glass jar that you use to freeze stuff in, you have to always keep this in mind. When it freezes, the food expands, and so you can't put the lid on the jar real tight and then freeze it, because it'll expand and the glass will break. I learned this the hard way a couple times. So when I first put the meat in, I just put the lid on, and I just barely twist it on. And then I have my freezer all ready to put all these containers in upright, so it doesn't matter that the lid isn't on that tight, because they're not going to spill, and I'm going to be very careful. And then the next day, after everything I know is frozen, I'll go out and I'll twist the lids tighter. Not real tight, but tighter, so that I know that no air's getting in there or whatever. Now, there have been times when I've gone out there and the food expanded so much that my lid is sitting half off because that's how much it expanded. So that's just proof that you really have to be careful and you don't want to put your lids on tight. But you could also freeze your meat in Ziploc bags, just like I was showing you before, and flatten them out, and those will thaw even faster than this will. Now, if I wanted to thaw this to eat, you know, if I wanted to make some chili right now, of course, I just pulled this out of the freezer, that's why it looks all frosty, and you don't want to stick something totally ice cold frozen into warm water because it can also break the glass. But if I ran this under cold water, that would take, I know it doesn't seem like it would take the chill off, but it would take the frost off. And then maybe in about half an hour, I could sit this in a pan of warm water that would start the thawing process. And then you could pour it into a jar of sauce or whatever. But usually, you know, I take it out in the morning and then by later in the day, it's ready and I don't even have to worry about whether it's thawed or not. But if you were to put it in a Ziploc bag, it would thaw very fast. Okay, we'll move on to the next thing. Okay, so I kind of try to be mindful of things that I could buy rather than make myself for less money. And, you know, there's not a ton of things, but there are some things. And one example is cheesecake. I like to make cheesecake. I've made them from scratch many times. But, you know, to buy cream cheese, heavy cream, eggs, butter, graham cracker crust, all that ends up being quite a bit of money to make a good sized cheesecake. Well, at Sam's Club, you can buy a delicious ready-made cheesecake for, I believe it's $14, and you get 12 slices, 12 big slices, plain cheesecake though. So what I'll do, I can't make a big cheesecake for $14 with all those ingredients I just rattled off. But if I buy the cheesecake and then I can dress it up myself, like I'll take Snickers or Oreos or Reese's and chop it up, put it on top. I'll take maybe some of my hot fudge. I don't know if you saw my video where I made hot fudge. It's just 2 ingredients. It's Hershey syrup and peanut butter mixed together, and it makes really good hot fudge sundaes, and you can make milkshakes. And then after it cools off, you can use it to garnish things like with the fudge sauce. So I'll take my cheesecakes, I'll put Snickers or Oreos or whatever on there, drizzle it with hot fudge, maybe some pecans, maybe some caramel. You could dress it up in a million different ways. You know, the cheesecake is just a blank canvas, and you can do whatever you want. You can buy preserves, raspberry, strawberry, warm it up, drizzle it over the cheesecake. You can slice up fresh fruit. There's a lot of things you can do, but I could not make a cheesecake that cheap, and the time involved, it's time intensive to make a cheesecake. So that's one thing, and that's just an example of something that I can buy cheaper than I can make. And another example I would give is spaghetti sauce. I have made spaghetti sauce from scratch lots of times, but I can also take my slow cooked meat that I made and put it into a good jar of sauce that I know is good, maybe add some extra spices to it. And the one that I like is I like Trader Joe's marinara sauce. It's $2 a jar. I mean, come on, you cannot make a jar of sauce for $2. And by the time you add it to the slow cooked meat and add some extra spices to it, or not, whatever you like, I mean, it tastes like homemade sauce, and it's way cheaper than making it yourself. So I don't make homemade spaghetti sauce anymore. Because that just works out great for me. So I'm sure if you really thought about it, there are some things, you know, people like me who like to cook and who like to bake, you get in this mindset of, I have to make it from scratch, I have to make it homemade. And you don't always. You know, sometimes it's easier to just buy it already made, and it's just as good. It's just you have to pick and choose. Okay, so another thing I like to do to save money is I like to shop at Aldi's. And I know that Aldi's is not nationwide because I lived out west for a while and they did not have one out there, but I don't know if there's anything comparable or not. But here in the Midwest, we have Aldi's, and I've been shopping there ever since they came to town, which was probably 30 years ago. And I think their quality is fantastic. A lot of people turn their nose up at Aldi's and they say, well, you can't get brand names there or whatever. Well, they do have some brand names at times, But from what I understand, a lot of research goes into the products that they carry, and they don't just carry any old product. They pick and choose the best products and at the best prices. And maybe over the course of all these years, I've maybe bought a couple things from there that I didn't like and I wouldn't ever buy again. But let me tell you, I've bought many brand name things before that I've been disappointed in. So, that's bound to happen. But you can't beat the prices at Aldi's, and sometimes it is much cheaper than buying in bulk at Sam's or Costco, because sometimes you don't want a gallon of mayonnaise. You can buy at Aldi's for just such a more reasonable price, and they have good deals. I mean, I buy my sugar, my eggs, my butter, my brown sugar, cheese. There's so many things that I buy there. I buy a good majority of my groceries there. And their meat is good too. So if you've never checked out an Aldi's, I recommend that you go there, try some of their stuff, and you don't have to get everything there, but you can definitely save some money if you do shop there. So another store I'd like to talk about is Trader Joe's, and they're not necessarily a discount store, but some of the things they have are very good deals. Like I mentioned before, their marinara sauce is $2 a jar. You just can't beat that. They also have good deals. If I need butter when I'm there, I'll buy butter. Their nuts and seeds are good prices. They have good deals on like crackers. They have a lot of good deals, but I wouldn't say I go in there and come out with a heaping cart full, because I don't think everything is an amazing deal. But a lot of things there are good deals, and a lot of the things they have are similar to what you would buy at Whole Foods, and but not the prices of Whole Foods. And Whole Foods, I'm sorry, they're just too expensive for me. I might go in there and find some stuff that's on sale, but just their regular prices, it's just too much. I don't go there very regularly at all, not because it's not a nice store. It's a very nice store, but I'm just trying to save money. So another thing I would suggest is, I don't know if you have any closeout stores near you. We have one near us called Ollie's. We also have one called Big Lots. Ollie's in particular has amazing deals on spices, like 99 cents for a good sized bottle of whatever, parsley, pepper, cumin, really good prices. They also have just random odd good deals on who knows what, maybe a pound of pasta for 99 cents. And a lot of people would say, well, that's just a junk store. And there's a lot of junk in there, I'm sure. But there are some good deals in there. And they also have very nice, at least at mine, baking sheets, baking pans, cupcake pans, a lot of nice things like that in there too. So, if you're just killing time sometime, go in there and see what you find. You would be surprised at what you might find in there. And also, where I live, there's a town about 40 minutes away from where I live. It's called Shipshewana, and it's an Amish town, and they have 2 grocery stores there that are kind of like bulk or closeout stores. They have a little bit of everything, but you never know what you're going to get when you go there, because a lot of it is closeouts. And I find amazing deals there. Like I never pay full price for candy, like Reese's peanut butter cups, or an example for that. How Reese's at Easter they make eggs, at Halloween they make pumpkins, at Christmas they make trees. Well, heck, I don't care what shape it's in. I'll go to this place in Shipshewana after Christmas, and they'll have the Christmas trees on price or on sale for a ridiculous price, super cheap. And I'm gonna chop it up and throw it in a parfait or a trifle, or put it on top of a piece of cheesecake, or just eat it. I don't care what shape it is. So I never pay full price for candy. I always get good deals there. And they also have like chocolate chips, or chocolate discs that I buy for like melting chocolate, like at Christmas time, to dip pretzels in or to make chocolate covered peanuts. So I have bought closeout chocolate products at this store many times, chocolate chips, chocolate discs, um, for very, very cheap, and used it throughout the year without any issues of the quality. It's always good. A lot of times it'll be high quality chocolate like Ghirardelli. It's not cheap stuff, it's good stuff. So also when I go to this particular place in Shipshewana, they almost always have, I love Jimmy Dean sausage, and usually to buy one roll of it at the store, is a 12-ounce roll is somewhere between $3.50 and $4 at the store. At this place I go to in Shipshewana, they have a double roll. It's 24 ounces and it's always $4. So you're getting twice as much, and it's always frozen. Yes, it's not thawed, but I'm sure maybe it was getting near its expiration date or something, and so they freeze it and then they sell it for cheap. And I've never ever had a problem with the quality, and you just can't beat the price. So check out some of those closeout stores near you and see what you might find. You might be very surprised. Okay, so another thing I try to do is I try to be aware of what I have that is going bad soon. Like here's an example. When I buy potatoes, I always buy a 10-pound bag, because a 5-pound bag is almost the same price as a 10-pound bag. So it makes no sense to me to buy a 5-pound bag when I can get 10 pounds for almost the same price. So, but it's only me and my husband here, and you know, we don't always go through a 10-pound bag of potatoes really quick. So this happened recently. I had several potatoes and I didn't want them to go bad. I didn't want to throw them out. So what I did is I made a big pot of potato soup, and it just so happened that I also had a gallon of milk that we hadn't used very much of, and I didn't want to throw it out either. So I made this big pot of potato soup, and I made a big pot of scalloped potatoes and ham. And I shared some of that with some friends. Okay, so after you make a big batch of soup, and you know, you have a lot left over, you don't know what to do with it, what I do is I buy these coffee cups. And you can get these about anywhere. I get them at that closeout store that I go to really cheap, but they also have them at Sam's or Costco. Probably they have them anywhere. It is simply a coffee cup with a lid. And what I do is I take the leftover soup and I fill a cup and I put the lid on. This one's chili, it's frozen. But I freeze them in individual cups like that. And I do this every time whenever I make a pot of soup, I usually make a bigger batch. Not if I'm making just a small thing of chili, but if I'm making a, you know, beef barley or chicken noodle or potato, I'm usually making a pretty good sized pot of it, and there'll always be leftovers. So when you freeze them individually like this and have them handy, you know, there comes a night where I don't want to cook, and so I just say to my husband, which kind do you want? And I go out to the freezer, and you know, whatever kind he wants he gets, and whatever kind I'll usually have 3 or 4 different things out there at a time. And even like the scalloped potatoes and ham, I had some of those left over, and I packaged some of those in these coffee cups. It's like a frozen dinner, but it's homemade. So you can't beat it. In 4 or 5 minutes, you have a homemade meal that you previously made, and you didn't throw anything out. You used up what you were gonna have to throw out if you didn't use it up pretty soon. So you definitely saved money there. So I appreciate you checking in with me, and if you've watched all the way to the end, I appreciate you sticking with me. And I would love to hear your money saving tips. If you would comment and tell me what you do to save money. I love sharing ideas, and I'd love to hear what you do. But if you'd like to rewatch this video, of course it's at YouTube, and I'm going to post it at my website, which is rhondasthrifty.com. I have a lot of recipes there you might be interested in. And thanks for watching this, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.